Hey everybody, I'm Steve Moore.
And I'm Mark Castleman.
We know the pain and heartbreak of porn and sex addiction.
And we know the triumph of breaking completely free.
Every day, we help our clients find hope and healing.
Join us in the fight to take back your life, your marriage, and be stronger than ever.
This is the PBSC Squared podcast.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the PBSC podcast. This is episode 294. It's something we haven't done in quite a long time, is a two-part episode. So last week, in episode 293, we had a betrayed partner who was sent in a really awesome but very heartbreaking submission, where she described sexual abuse that she experienced as a 10-year-old from an older male family member. And we spent the whole episode in 293 talking about the impact of child sexual abuse and what it does to kids, how they bring it with them into their adult lives, and just how tragic that is.
Well, and then how it plays a role in in somebody who is now experiencing betrayal trauma in their current relationship.
Yep, take all of that, and now I'm in a relationship with a porn or sex addict who's betrayed me. And what does that do, right? We talked about complex trauma. And we know that was a heavy episode. You're probably thinking, yeah, okay, I listened to 293. You better give me something in 294. Make it worth the suffering.
Yeah, usually these episodes are a problem and solution style, and last one was just the problem. So
we just couldn't fit it all into one episode. There was no way. So we had the first small part of her submission. I'm going to read the rest of her submission. And then we're going to address some solutions today.
And Mark, actually, with it being so short, maybe we should just read the first part as well.
I'll read the first part and then read the other part as well. Okay.
Just so those who maybe are tuning in for some reason.
Yeah, good idea. So here's the first part she sent us that we addressed in episode 293. She said, "Firstly, thank you for all you do. Truly, I have never felt so seen or heard in my entire life until I found your podcast." That warms our hearts. Thank you for saying that. "I was introduced to pornography at the age of 10 by an older male family member who would use me and pornography for his sexual releases. Ultimately, this was very traumatizing for me and affected who I am as a person. I have always had a strong issue with pornography and sexually related issues my whole life." So that was her first submission. Here's now what she said after that. So with all that context in place, all that history, now current, I ended up marrying the love of my life. Unbeknownst to me, he also struggled with pornography addiction. This was crippling for me when discovered, and every single D-Day, discovery day since, has been unbelievably heavy for me to handle and carry. So it sounds like there's been what we call trickled disclosure over time from him. I love my husband more than anything in the world and want us to be able to navigate this road together. Unfortunately, lately it seems we've hit a wall. I don't think he has relapsed at this time, but I do feel he isn't as, quote, on board as he was previously. When I try for deep check-ins or send him a podcast, I feel he isn't receiving the information or sharing information as openly as he was before, which is ultimately putting me back into the fear and uncomfortable place. How do I dig myself out of this place without placing too much pressure on my husband? It's hard for me to separate my healing from his recovery sometimes, and I just want to be able to stay safe on my own. Do you have any feedback for me for these low times? Or for my husband when he seems to be taking steps backward? When we get to these points, it weighs on the whole family, including our children. I appreciate you guys so much for all you do for people like us."
We appreciate the submission and the vulnerability with it. There's so many things here, right? She describes her situation, which we're going to get into, but then a couple of key points, right? How do I, for example, how do I share or approach him without I think the phrase was putting too much pressure on him, right? On my husband. How do I dig myself out of this place? And then she talks about the blurring that is kind of hard happened for her with regard to his recovery versus her recovery versus the relationship,
Mhm.
right? And all of that. And
And you
so, and
can
then,
just imagine how we talked about in episode 293, these emotional memories that were etched in her as a kid. Can you imagine how much those old memories are being activated in this scenario?
mhm,
Huge.
yeah.
Right.
So we're dealing with a very complex situation, and to top it all off, right? We have kids, of course, on the line
Yes.
who are now involved as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, so a lot to cover. And as Mark indicated, right, we went pretty deep into the complex trauma and the things that are going on for her. So let's start where we ended last time. For the partner, what to do, right?
You're the
Here we
betrayed
are.
partner with horrible sexual abuse in your past. Now you're in a current relationship, married to the love of your life, and all this comes out.
Yeah, where do we go from here?
Yeah.
And so the piece of this, I'll just read this for emphasis one more time. This little segment from that. How do I dig myself out of this place without placing too much pressure on my husband? It's hard for me to separate my healing from his recovery sometimes, and I just want to be able to quote stay safe on my own. Do you have any feedback for me on those low times? First and foremost, and we can't
Boy, did,
emphasize.
boy, did
Oh,
we have a part of this jump out of dust, didn't we, Steve?
oh yeah, absolutely. And this first part we covered in some detail a few episodes back, but it bears definitely repeat here. The importance and the critical component to every partner in a relationship, but certainly in this context, the betrayed partner finding her voice.
Yes.
Um, it is no secret that in relationships like this, whether it's intentional on the part of the addict or it's implicitly expressed or the pressure's placed there unintentionally, there's a tremendous amount of pressure on partners for a lot of things. To not be as angry as they should be, quote unquote, to go along to get along, to not to keep his secrets and to not be open, right? And there's lots of other ways that manifests, but what that oftentimes comes back to is again an either explicit or implicit pressure that says, "Hey, your voice can't use it, at
Yeah.
least not to the full
And
extent."
and where else did this happen in her life? Back to
Exactly.
the original sexual abuse, where you can only imagine what that adult male did to her with regard to having a voice.
Absolutely.
Huh.
Because here we are, right, dealing with the same dynamic. Again, we talked about that 2 weeks ago, but now we're dealing with a partner who isn't just experiencing that kind of pressure in this relationship to some degree. It potentially is very much, and for those listening who find themselves in a similar place, what is it doing? It's activating, reconnecting, and re emphasizing all that old programming.
All the old programming, right? And so one of the biggest things that Steve and I do in our work as individual therapists and in our D2C program is helping betrayed partners find their voice. One of the things we want to point out is, she says, how do I do all this without pressuring my husband? Now, Steve and I, we spend every day asking ourselves what's under that. What's under
Yeah.
those words? Not pressuring my husband. I wonder what that means. And we don't know because she didn't explain it, but we can guess at a few things. How do I confront him so that he doesn't get upset? How do I
Mm.
bring this up so that it doesn't disconnect us? How do I confront so there's not conflict? Or, I
Or if you're
hate,
married to Steve back in the day, how do I do this in a way that doesn't make him lose his mind?
right?
Right?
Right. And we understand, right, this safety mechanism that her brain developed to stay safe would absolutely respond this way, right? So, and then she even shows more depth to this by saying that she needs to do some of this alone.
Mm.
Right? I have to go this alone. I have to keep myself safe because I can't have a voice. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Let's do. So,
So when I heard this, oh, how do I say this? Sitting here today talking to all of you, you're looking at somebody that didn't want to get pressure from anyone about anything when I was in
yeah.
addiction. Don't pressure me. Don't point out my faults. Don't confront me because now my already fragile self-esteem and worth is shattered into, nothingness. And so I had my partner, my wife, she learned to walk on eggshells. She learned to, go along together because was already falling apart. Now he's going to fall apart totally. But here's what she didn't know that she knows today. Pressure is often the catalyst for change.
Yes.
My wife learned to have a voice, and she learned to do something that I would say was one of the most valuable parts of my recovery, my learning to be honest and connect with her and live a healthy life, was the fact that she dared to begin to confront me about issues, raw and real, according to her wants and needs. And when she started to confront me, it was crazy scary. I would get angry or avoidant. But eventually, as I stayed in recovery, those confrontations, I call them the teacher was appearing to show Mark the most important areas in his life to make adjustments and changes. If she had not confronted me and had continued to walk on eggshells and go along, I wouldn't be where I am today. I will tell you that right now.
100% agree with that. And to expand on that, I can almost hear what partners would be saying here at this point, at least if you've been in this process for a little bit. Well, then when I do that, now I'm just nagging him,
Right.
or Stephen Mark, you tell us all the time, right? It's not our job to be our husband's policewoman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're absolutely right. It is not your job to nag him or in any way. And that oftentimes is the default way through which that pressure kind of manifests, right? A partner will express these things in a way where she's kind of the taskmaster, and because she's owning more than she should, she becomes the bad guy. You
Yes.
should be doing this. Why aren't you doing this? What's wrong with, or whatever the case is. And it introduces a toxic element where it's putting pressure on her where it shouldn't be. And two, it's a really great scapegoat for the addict being candid with you because now he doesn't have to be the one on the hot seat.
Yep, he can transfer everything to her anger, everything
Yes.
to her reactivity, and he doesn't have to look at himself.
Well, and what I'm going to say next is probably the pre was why I gave the little nervous chuckle a minute ago as a precursor. It's not because the subject is funny. It's just because that's usually means for those who've listened to the podcast for a while that Steve's going to say something maybe a little forcefully. It's not your job to nag him, but it's also not your job to let him off the hook for feeling hard things. He should be, if he is feeling pressure, he should.
Yes,
And it's a pressure of his own making.
that's right.
He's in breach of contract in this relationship. When we addicts, we act out in our addiction, regardless of the reasons, regardless of the context, and we hold empathy and space for you addicts all day, every day, probably better than most people are even equipped to do.
We do.
But having said that, empathy never robs accountability. Guys, we caused this. We
Yeah,
should feel the pressure.
we
We are violating the agreements in the relationship.
we did. We entered into a sacred contract and we busted it to pieces.
We did. And in this case, we still are. We're continuing to do so.
Yeah.
We should feel some pressure. If we don't, something's probably off.
Mm-hmm.
And so hopefully that a partner takes that in a way. Again, we don't say that to be mean, nor do we say that you should do that in a way that takes ownership for you. Because this is the secret about how you do this. Rather than going into that nagging and saying, well, you need to be doing this, this, or this, what do? You use your authentic voice and you cease, if you are in any way, to either toxically attack him, which gives him a pass because he gets to feel angry instead of vulnerable feelings, or if you're not sharing your frustrations at all, you move to transparency, and when you do your check-in with him, whatever that looks like, ideally that should be daily. Whether he's electing to do that or not, what do? I love you and I care about you, but I am not going to spare you in any way from what I'm feeling and the impact that your actions or inaction have had on me today. And here
I
you
like
go.
that. Here's
Today, I feel a little further away from you in this relationship for X, Y, and Z reasons. I trust you a little less. I have a little bit more of resentment because this isn't changing. I find myself becoming more distant emotionally, physically, sexually. And if I was to add on to that, what could we add? Here's the really hard stuff, right? Because now if we're talking about this specific dynamic where a partner is starting to make the links or understand how current trauma is linking with the past, I'm having a hard time not seeing you like my abusive father.
Oof. Oof. You know what? And I can relate to that because I had some things expressed by others that I had mistreated in my addiction. And when they came forward and started to say what you're expressing, Steve, it was a dagger in my heart.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, right. But I fortunately that came when I was far enough along in my recovery that I could receive it. But it's
Yes,
true.
it is
You
true.
remind me of people that abused me in my past.
Because the more
Doesn't
this
mean
goes
that
on, what does the brain do? It makes more and more of those links. See,
totally
here's the complex
that,
pattern right here.
that's trauma, right? And some of the people, a good many of them were pretty healthy. Said, doesn't I'm not saying you're a totally evil, bad,
Of
rotten
course not.
guy, but I have
Absolutely
to
not.
tell you that when you go into those behaviors, when you take on this persona, when you get quiet and start getting complacent in your recovery efforts and you start disconnecting from me, I have to tell you that those are some of the feelings that come to me. And
Yes.
here's what it means. You need I think you need to know this.
Yeah. Brittany and I have had those kind of conversations. And even when Brittany's been very tactful and loving, even if she hasn't had to say it, I know damn well that I've shown up at times that probably look eerily similar to her dad, my father-in-law.
Yes.
And of all the people on planet Earth that I ever wanted to emulate,
Oh,
that
yeah.
man is probably last on the list.
Yeah. Yeah.
The last thing I wanted Brittany to be seeing through me is a lens of her father-in-law or of her father and my father-in-law.
Hey, everybody. PBSE podcast hosts Mark and Steve here with a special message about our revolutionary online recovery program for addict spouses and couples called Dare to Connect. Multiple times every week, we get messages from subscribers in the program. They're people just like you. They're trying to heal from the devastation of sex and porn addiction and betrayal trauma. And here's a few of our most recent submissions. Here's one from an addict in recovery. It says D2C has principles that everyone should utilize regardless of their circumstances. It doesn't matter your coping mechanisms. It matters that you want to work towards genuine connection with your partner.
That's awesome. Another testimony from an addict continues on. My wife is just starting out in training as a licensed therapist. Dare to Connect has been far more useful to her than her degree.
Wow.
The way Mark and Steve apply what they've learned is always so redemptive. D2C has opened doors for my relationship that I thought would be shut forever. Mark and Steve are an incredible resource of information on the subject of sex addiction and betrayal trauma. We could not do this journey without their help.
Here's one from a partner who's been with us for nearly a year. I want you both to know that it is because of you guys and D2C that I'm able to be in the place that I am today. I will always be grateful to you both for your feedback and prompt replies to my questions. I can't even come close to putting it into words how valuable my time spent with y'all this past year has been to my life. Thank you for everything you taught me about betrayal trauma and boundaries and thinking errors and loving myself and making myself a priority and standing up for myself.
Love that. Love that submission. And then as we close out here today, guys, one more account from another addict in recovery. I wish I had a platform like this 14 years ago where I could have learned and done the hard work of recovery before I had done all this damage to myself and to my spouse. And to be candid with all of you, that's exactly why we created Dare to Connect. You know, Mark and I found ourselves in that place. You know, messages like these and the others like them, they're what Dare to Connect really is all about, guys, and why Mark and I do what we do. Whether you're an addict or a partner of an addict, and no matter where you find yourself in the recovery process, Dare to Connect can take you to the next level. Don't wait another day to catapult your recovery forward. Today is your day for change. Visit us at daretoconnectnow.com to pick up your free 2-week trial of Dare to Connect today.
Sure. So we hope all of you betrayed partners listening, if you want to know how to own your side of the street in holding him accountable and responsible, you stick to your side by, in an authentic, raw, and real way, expressing your true feelings about the impact that what he's choosing to do or not to do is having upon you.
Yes.
He gets to decide what to do with that. He gets to decide what actions he's going to take or not take, but you're going to be very clear the impact that this is having.
Absolutely. And just to clarify for everyone, because I can see how my father-in-law was not sexually abusive towards my wife. Okay, I just want to make that clear.
Oh,
I'm just talking about it's the same mechanism, right?
right.
Whether it's emotional, sexual, or otherwise.
Now,
Um,
as you get raw and real in the impact that this is having on you, and you continue to report to him on a hopefully daily basis of what that looks like, let's say that he doesn't respond well.
mm.
Let's say that he decides to either get angry or to shut down more or to tell you to back off or whatever it is. What does your side of the street look like now? And Steve, this is where we start to talk about developing and expanding your own support system outside of your partner.
Well, and this is what and just going back to what she originally said, right? Because one of her key questions, if you recall, what was it? I just want to be able to stay quote unquote safe on my own.
On my own.
Now, I guess we'll prelude this with an unfortunate truth. So long as one stays in a relationship like this, where this sort of behavior is ongoing and the addiction is still perpetuating itself and the related betrayals are still perpetuating themselves, to whatever degree that is happening, as far as the relationship concerned is concerned, that safety is going to be compromised to some level. There's just no way to escape that.
It is.
One cannot be fully safe in a relationship where the other party is not safe. That being said, when it comes to her side of recovery and or inoculating herself as much as possible towards the other pieces on the other side, there is something that could be done with that. And Mark kind of alluded to that. Step one is expanding the support system that you already have. All of us to some degree have outside support systems. In some cases, they're very minor. In some cases, they may be more significant. But some of the answers that you have heard us make on past podcasts are going to apply here. 12-step groups, right? Associating with close friends that you trust and that you're able to share difficult information with, family members, friends, therapy, obvious plug, Dare to Connect. Our program for addict spouses and couples are a few places where you can connect with other partners just like yourself, experiencing very similar things in real time all over the globe.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, let me tell a personal experience about how this works because I don't
yeah,
want
that would
us
be
to be
great.
misunderstood about this. I'm going to say something that Steve and I talk about all the time, and then I'm going to explain it. You may be in a situation because of what he's choosing to do or not to do on his side, and based with all of your history, where you're going to need to dial back the level of intimacy and vulnerability that you have with him.
Mhm.
Now, some would hear that and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. What? I mean, you're saying I just distance myself from this person I love and then the relationship just completely goes to crap and we become married singles? That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you stay transparent and authentic the whole time you're doing this. And I'll tell you from a personal experience what this looked like for me. So my wife, for example, and I would plan to go do something, let's say on a Saturday morning and spend the day together. Well, let's say that I relapsed the night before in early recovery. And I got up that morning and she could tell. She could tell. I was in a mood. I was pouty. I was shut off, right? I was shame filled. And she used to try to placate me and soothe me and nurture me and affirm me and basically work me into a place where we could go spend the day. She quit doing that. She said, I can tell you're in a really, really bad place. I love you. I know we plan to spend the day together, but I can tell that you're not in a place where you're capable or willing to do that. So I'm going to call my sister and I'm going to go spend the day with her. And I hope that you'll do all of your work here, tap into your support system and do what you need to do on your side because I really want to reconnect with you as soon as possible. Do you see how she would dial back the intimacy and the vulnerability and the engagement based on what I was deciding to do or not to do and tap
Mhm.
into her support system? Now, I would tell you that that just ticked me off to no degree. Oh, man. And I would try to pull her back in by, you don't love me. And here we go again. You're going to go be with your sister. You go be married to your sister. Why don't you? I would try all the tactics and the techniques to reel her back in, and she just wasn't having it. Why? Because she had a good, solid outside support system that, if needed, she could dial up the intimacy there and take care of herself and put herself first. Now she was ready to re-engage as soon as I would take the steps and become more healthy and more approachable and more compatible on my side. She was right there, ready to engage and do that. But she had that intimacy dial, and she would dial it up or down depending on what it looked like. Right? Very powerful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's and now again, we know that that challenges some people's notions of, well, that's not loving. Where it becomes not loving is when we aren't transparent about what we're doing.
Right.
That's when, and now addicts would disagree with this if they're in that codependent state, because I was just that same way. I remember having this conversation with our therapist once upon a time where we were talking about taking distance. And for me, how did that register as a codependent addict with a disorganized attachment style? Straight up abandonment.
Oh yeah, she was abandoning you straight up.
Totally.
Yep.
Totally abandonment.
Yep.
It wasn't abandonment, but it felt that way. So we can understand why it would feel that way, but it's not. As long as we're sharing with them what we're doing, that again, loving another person means what? You hear us say it on this podcast probably once every other week, telling another person what they need to hear, not what they want to hear.
Yeah.
Um, and
And
so
like I and
it's
like I said, if my wife had never taken this approach, what were the chances if she did not confront me in this authentic way that I would have changed?
sure.
Virtually nil.
Now, again, is it a partner's job to make a guy change? Of course not. But when you're transparent and you share your voice like this, what are you doing? You're creating the greatest authentic potential for him to be empowered to make choice. Because here's the thing, partners, that you need to be aware of. Even though it may feel uncomfortable or even loving, even unloving to not share this, and he may reaffirm that sentiment, are you really being loving by shielding him from what's going on? Because if you do that in perpetuity, do you know what happens? Like when that occurs, Mark and I have seen it in our office. You wake up as an addict one day, reach over to say good morning to your wife, and she's gone. You go downstairs and there's a wedding ring sitting on the counter.
Gone. Yep.
That's what happens.
Became
It's
too much.
the severity of the situation is still there. We're just not aware of it,
Yeah.
right? And so what the most loving thing to do is be able to say, look, this building, would it be loving if the house was on fire and one partner looked at the other and said, hey, how's the house doing? And the other one was like, no, gosh, it's really going to piss him off if he hears it's on fire. Things are good. Are you sure? I swear I smell some smoke. No, no fire here. I don't know what you're talking about. Would that really be loving?
No.
No. The
No.
loving thing to do is to be able to say, look, I know this is hard to hear, but yeah, we've already burned through the first floor and second floor is already going up.
Well, and there's another key element here too that as partners become more healthy in their own sovereign independence and their side of the street, they start to say, okay, trust is shattered. It's literally obliterated. I know that the abuse in my history in my past wants to drive me to have no trust for any part of this relationship, period. But you start to come to the place, say, okay, I can acknowledge that in some ways he is not safe, but in some ways he is. So what is safe and what is not safe? You
Mm-hmm.
also get to move that dial around, right? And I would say, my wife would go spend the day with her sister. Maybe later that night, I got my act together sufficiently and she could feel it. Maybe we had dinner together. I was safe enough, right? You grab the elements of safety that you can and keep yourself safe and authentic when it's not safe. It doesn't have
Yes,
to be all or nothing.
absolutely. And for a partner, the same rule that we oftentimes discuss with addicts is the same. If you are carrying around damage, whether it's simple or particularly, I would say, complex trauma, as a result of these relationships where your value, your worth has become distorted, you stick with the winners.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with people who can provide that and distance yourself from people who can't, including
Yeah.
your partner for a time if needed.
Yeah. For in
Um,
time and in degrees as
yep,
needed, right?
absolutely.
Now, Steve, we had some insights for this addict.
Yeah, absolutely.
We don't know him, of course, and we only know what she's told us. But based on 20 plus years each and our own addiction histories, we got some pretty good ideas. One of the things that and whenever we hear that a guy is backing off or going complacent or not doing the things he used to do, as soon as we hear that, we hear this guy is not fully awake to the severity of this situation. He's done enough in recovery that he's starting to do better. And one part of him says, okay, we're good.
Hmm.
She's good towards me. We're good. We're good. Right. And back off and get complacent and stop doing the things that work. That says you don't get how severe this is. Right. This is some apathy that's starting to set in. And maybe she's engaging in a little bit of enablement of that. I don't want to put pressure on him. So when you and I prepared for this, Steve, we said we need to tell this guy, wake up. You need
No,
to wake up.
no, absolutely. And we don't mean that in a mean way.
Oh,
It's true. I mean, I know what it's like. I mean, this is, if you've listened to the podcast for any amount of time, you've heard me share my story more than once on this program. I was asleep.
yeah.
I mean, on some deep level, I knew what was going on and how severe things were, but I was asleep. I was high on my own supply. I had managed to minimize and kind of construct in my mind where, yeah, this is bad, but she's not going to leave. And yeah, I need to be honest, but as long as I'm honest, it won't ever change. And again, those who have heard that story is that that little bubble of denial I was living in was real until the day it wasn't. And
Yeah.
that was a rude awakening.
Yeah.
And thankfully my wife would love me enough to do that. But here's the thing, guys. You don't have to wait for your partner to come at you with a critical mass like Mark or I did. That's why we're sharing this with you on the podcast right now. Wake the hell up. If you find yourself in a place where ask yourself, am I really pushing forward in this process? Am I being proactive? When was the last time I let out in the recovery piece of this? Am I being reactive in my recovery or am I being proactive in my recovery?
Mhm.
Is if my wife is in the other room right now, how much does she really know about the last time I relapsed? What my slips look like? What I did for recovery today? If she can't answer those questions and she hasn't heard from me in the last 24 hours, gentlemen, that is a problem.
Well, because what you guys need to know, and this was hard but important for Steve and I to learn. If you're not checking in with your betrayed partner, especially when they have a history of abuse, and you don't keep her fully informed on a regular, transparent, authentic basis, what is her abused brain going to do? It is immediately going to fill in the blanks.
Yes.
It's going to mind read you. It's going to make assumptions. It's going to fill in the things that you're not telling her. And do you really want that to be happening? Whew, I don't. I'd rather actually tell her and
Yeah.
keep her highly informed on a regular daily basis because I know something of what she's been through. And if that brain of hers starts filling in the blanks, we're in trouble.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Well, and of course, the other element of this is when we wake up, guys, it's necessary before you can really be authentic in this process. In fact, the only one of the key things that keeps one authentic in this recovery process is empathy. We
totally.
addicts don't like empathy with a partner because to empathize means to be accountable, and to be accountable means being responsible, and to be responsible is like nails on a chalkboard for an addict
Well,
when it comes to
it
this kind of
means
stuff.
phrases like sitting with her in her pain,
Sure.
leaning in when I can see that she's upset or hurting, right? And guys, the reason to really take on recovery, and it's not just recovery, it's healthy living. It's
Yeah.
learning to live healthily. It's learning what it means to be in a healthy relationship. It's learning what it means to be proactive and to lead out. It's not just for addicts, it's for everybody.
No.
But
And
we
guys,
want
it's
to
not
get, yeah, go ahead,
no,
Steve.
I was just going to say, and it's not just for her, guys. That I know it's pretty straight language when I'm telling you guys to wake the hell up, but this is not just for you. This is or for her. This is for you.
Yeah, it's
When was the
absolutely,
last time you really stood in the light with your partner, or are you sitting kind of in the semi shade?
yeah.
When was the last time you were really accountable? When was the last time you were able to look? And it isn't just about being accountable about negative stuff. When was the last time you were able to practice positive accountability and say, "Hey, babe, I just want you to know, last week's been great.
And
This
here's
is what's been
why.
going on."
Here's
Yep,
what I've
here's
been
why.
doing.
Right? I mean, these we are wired for success. We're wired to overcome. We're wired to conquer, and to challenge the status quo, to be better today than we were yesterday. This is of course an important baseline in providing safety and growth for a partner who's been through not just what we've perpetuated, but tragically and unfairly, which has been perpetuated on her by past people. because this is our complex trauma episode around this. But it, of course, is us rising up and becoming our full potential, not for anyone even else, for us,
For you.
because you're worth it,
Yeah,
because you
Steve, I'll
matter.
tell you, Steve and I feel so much different about ourselves today than we did in
Oh,
addiction.
jeez.
I don't want to go back to that guy.
I can't go back to that guy.
Miserable,
No way.
miserable to be
No
that.
way. No turning back there.
It's so much. Life is happier, more fulfilling, more peaceful. It's still challenging. It's still hard, but man, I'm a totally different guy, and I like this guy.
Absolutely.
I love this guy. I could never say that about the old me. Now, today, when my wife is in crisis for whatever reason, even if it's me that's put her in a crisis, now I look at her and go, you know what? The person I love more than anybody on this planet is in crisis.
Yeah.
I'm going to come to her aid right now. And I start moving toward her to stand shoulder to shoulder. The old Mark wouldn't have done that. He would have ran. Let's get out of
The old Steve would have thrown a belt at the wall and stewed for 3 days in silence.
here. Right. It's such a better way, right? Daily vulnerability, daily transparency, sharing, daily deposits into that trust account, one little deposit after another through the little gestures, the little expressions of appreciation, the little affirmations and noticing, right? Guys, we can do this. You can do this.
You were wired for, built for, and are entitled to greater than what you have now, if any of that resonates with you.
Without question. Without question. But you need a real assessment about where you are today, a real one, and then confront that based on that real assessment and deciding what you're going to do going forward proactively.
Absolutely.
Right?
Guys, we hope this has been helpful for you. We know it's been a lengthy 2-part episode. Appreciate you guys for those who listen to these episodes right when they release each week, for your patience in getting the second one going. I know what it's like to watch like live episodes of a show I like on Netflix, and it drives me freaking crazy when you got to wait like week to week. So
That's true.
appreciate you guys doing that. Thank you for your patronage and for your trust in us as you tune into us each week. As always, if you like what you hear here and you like the mildly irreverent, especially on my side, but practical, useful, and we'd like to think sardonically endearing approach to recovery, again, at least on my side, then you will love Dare to Connect. Come join us. Come check it out at daretoconnectnow.com. We continue to offer our ongoing offer of a 2-week free trial where you can try that without risk. See if it's right for you. If it's not right for you, please leave. I say that in the most loving way. Please don't stay. But come and try it and see if it is right for you. It can be a life and a game changer for you. And as always, if you want to send us questions into the podcast to address on the program, albeit in a time delayed fashion as opposed to immediately with D2C, you can send those in by going to the same site at daretoconnectnow.com. Right up at the top of the page, there's a banner right there that says PBS, the PBC podcast logo's there. Click on that, and there's a contact form on that page where you can send those in to us.
Yeah, love to hear from you. All right. Hey, thanks for sticking it out with us through part 1 and part 2. And we really hope you have a great rest of your day, your week. And we will look forward to the next episode.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Everything expressed on the PBSC podcast are the opinions of the hosts and the participants and is for informational and educational purposes only. This podcast should not be considered mental health therapy or as a substitute thereof. It is strongly recommended that you seek out the clinical guidance of an individual qualified mental health professional. If you're experiencing thoughts of suicide, self-harm, or a desire to harm others, please dial 911 or go to your nearest emergency room.